Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 1 minute at a time. In this, our 5th season, we are looking at Joe Johnston's 2011 film, Captain America, The First Avenger. I'm Andy Nelson from the Next Reel Film Podcast.
And I'm Pete Wright, also from the Next Reel.
Today we are talking about Minute 4, which begins with 2 men exploring the ship and ends with 2 men talking about defending Castle Rock Tower.
We have I have a comment. First comment.
Oh.
And I haven't mentioned it already because now that we're in the actual cabin of this massive vehicle and they are exploring, they're walking in the first couple of seconds, close to this chair. And then we have a reverse shot where we're looking back at the guys with their flashlights. And this is where this film's exuberance for lens flare rivals only J.J. Abrams' Star Trek. Do you have any note related to lens flare on this movie? Because it's bug nuts. There is so much lens flare.
Which is interesting. We didn't have any lens flare with the truck headlights.
Right. Diffused by the snow, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is where, and part of the issue is they commit to lens flare early, and then they create a whole army full of weapons that include bright sources of blue light. And every time anyone looks at one of the weapons just sitting still, not even in use, it has this grotesque lens flare on it. I find it. So this is where it starts. Right here, I think, full-on flashlight lens flare. Get ready. Captain America is a very bright lens flare-y ride.
Which is funny. I don't recall a lot of lens flare in other Joe Johnston projects.
I don't either.
Well, it makes me wonder. The DP on this was Shelley Johnson, cinematography. And Shelley has done a lot of TV, but certainly a good number of films. I don't see a lot of stuff in here where I say, Jurassic Park 3, there's a Joe Johnston project. Hidalgo, The Wolfman, clearly somebody who's worked a lot with Johnston, but I don't see anything where I think of as, that is a major lens flare film.
Isn't that funny? Tell me you noticed it, though. Am I crazy? Like, I found it so distracting in some sequences. It was a laugh out loud funny.
I didn't notice. Yeah. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention to it, but not to say it's not there, but I wasn't noticing. So, but that's Shelley Johnson, cinematographer, and also recently did Greyhound, the Tom Hanks World War II film. So
Tom
certainly
Hanks
somebody
World War II
who
slipper movie. So many slippers.
Certainly has World War II look for sure. The lens flare. What's interesting about that shot you're talking about, though, is we get a profile shot of our SHIELD lieutenant as he is flashing his flashlight toward that cockpit chair. And then when we cut, it is a POV shot. So we go from a profile, and you normally don't go from profile to POV. Normally you are showing their face, and then we cut to the POV. Not in this case, we're profile. And then what's funny is when we cut back, we still see that profile, but who's more prominent is the SHIELD tech coming toward us, and it almost makes it feel like the SHIELD tech is the POV that we're looking at, but it's not. It's weirdly deceptive the way that they chose to construct this.
Why do you think they did it that way?
I think it all lends to the mystery, the throwing us off, the kind of creating tension and giving a sense of we're just really not sure what's happening here. It's pretty.
So you think it was intentional?
I think it was intentional. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know that I'm on the. I think I might be on the fence on the intentionality of that scene. I think it might just be what is the most efficient way with what we've got to get ourselves into a close up on that frozen SHIELD reveal.
And that's entirely possible that they misshot the POV shot of the light walking toward that cockpit chair, and they had to use it. And it's entirely possible, but it's
in terms of precedent for that point of view. Lest we review minute 1 of the Marvel Movie Minute Captain America podcast, where we have the truck, which is now 2 sets of 2 lights.
Yeah.
on one
the
truck.
weird POV.
Yeah, threading the needle.
Well, if anything, I will say the way that the editing works here is smooth. Like, you don't think about that too much. You don't think about too much the fact that we're a POV of the chair, and then when we cut, we're looking at the tech whose flashlight is revealing something entirely different, not the chair. So we don't think it's not designed in a way where it confuses, I guess, is the reason that I think there might be some intentionality there.
No, you're right. And the reveal on the chair where you think you're going into the chair, but it's actually the pile of powdered snow below it, I think works. I never lose track of what I'm looking at. At no point do I lose track of what I'm looking at.
No, it works pretty well. But then to your point, as you mentioned, we have our tech here who walks toward, he sees something, he walks toward it, bends down, and we see something illuminated under the snow and the ice. We can't quite tell. And then he starts wiping it with his hand, and that's when we reveal the shield. Which
one says, hey, call somebody? Is it the guy standing up or the guy? Because it cuts away on the shield.
In the front, we have our shield tech. That's Nicholas. Nicholas, the shield tech, is the one who uncovers what we're looking at there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he says, Lieutenant, and this is Gorman. I'm just going to keep calling him Gorman. I know,
yeah, Lieutenant Gorman.
It's William Hope, the actor, but I'm going to say it's Shield Lieutenant Gorman. Is who we have here. And he's the one who, after the tech calls him over, he comes and looks at it, and then the tech says, "What is it?" And then the lieutenant is the one. It's hard to tell that he's talking because the light is reflecting on his mask and his breath is fogging it a little bit. It's hard to tell, but he's the one who says, go ahead and wake him up. Get me a line to the colonel. I don't care what time it is. This one's worth waking up for. He says all that stuff. So
that's what I wanted to make sure, because I couldn't tell. It wasn't like, who was it that should know that information when you see the shield artifact, that this is important? Like, how was that set into the shield cultural history? What are these guys doing, these two guys right now, thinking about that shield and noting why it's important?
Well, that's a really good question. And one thing that I think is interesting about this particular story is, and we'll talk about this as things happen, is what will people know? And does S.H.I.E.L.D. intrinsically know more because they were involved in the super soldier program, and the rest of history is kind of forgotten about this Captain America figure? I mean, because it's definitely going to be an interesting thing to look at, the fact that Captain America, he's really not around for a very long period of time, right?
No. Like, is he ingrained in S.H.I.E.L.D. history and taught generations hence, remember the captain? Because that felt a little bit weird to me. Like, oh, thank God we have a S.H.I.E.L.D. historian in the lieutenant, right? That he's able to know when to make that phone call.
I do wonder, like, how much do these guys actually know about what's going on? I mean, Captain America, the film starts in 1942. He's doing USO tours in 1943 and presumed dead in 1943 as well. So he's only around for like a year. And I mean, obviously in the US culture, people are aware because he's out there selling war bonds and stuff. But my hunch is the general American public thinks of this Captain America figure as kind of that poster, the war bond poster. This is that guy who was on the poster telling us to buy war bonds, who was out there doing these shows. They likely don't have any clue as to anything that had happened. So if anybody, other than the kids were reading comics, it just is like an American figure that was designed to inspire Americans during World War II.
Yeah.
Nobody knows that he's this figure except for S.H.I.E.L.D. And again, this was the 40s. I mean, I know actors aren't necessarily their character ages, but characters aren't necessarily the actor ages, but William Hope, the actor playing Gorman, S.H.I.E.L.D. Lieutenant Gorman, he was born in 1955. And so he wouldn't have even grown up knowing these things. So he had to have been taught in some capacity within S.H.I.E.L.D., there was this figure. And I guess I would think that maybe they came up here on the idea that this discovery, there is something discovered in the ice do you think that it's just like in SHIELD's like data banks, hey, if anything's ever found in the ice, put a flag on that because it could be Captain America?
Yeah, like or is it just like, oh, because he makes a specific note in this minute. He says this guy's waited long enough, right? Like it's not just,
and that's assuming there's a guy here.
Yeah.
Like all they're seeing is a shield at this point.
Is a shield. Yeah, that's right. They've never revealed a guy. All they said is this is a shield, and maybe it's shield tech looking, right? Like maybe it's something we should know because some of our other stuff looks like shield technology.
Yeah.
I'm saying acronym shield, not literal shield.
Right. Yeah, we're going to have to start.
It's very confusing.
Yeah, all of a sudden in this particular film, we're going to have to talk about which shield are we talking about?
Yeah. So anyway, I think it's like it's not as if the editing and cinematography don't indicate that this is a wildly important thing for the audience to understand, right?
Correct.
This is they've done that. They've lens flared this puppy to the ends of the earth, and now we know this is super important. They're going to make a phone call, and of course, we the audience don't need any more because we're sitting in a Captain America movie and we just saw the shield for the first time. So I think that carries a lot of weight. There's no more mystery to be revealed.
Yeah, we know when we see that this thing, I mean, we've seen it on the posters, we've seen it in the trailer. If you weren't a reader of Captain America, if you hadn't been really following all this stuff,
reasonable to assume you would get it.
You would assume, oh, this relates to our guy. And also, this is really that final clue that you needed. Oh, this is definitely present day. This has nothing to do with the past.
And that you and I have been now talking about these first, this for over an hour. In podcast time, and we're still, about 200 seconds into the movie. So,
oh, that's the joy of these shows.
All this happens pretty quick, that is to say.
Yeah, right. Very, very quick. So that's pretty much where we get this reveal. So now we know, okay, there's this ship in the ice. It's been frozen here for a long time because Captain America's shield is here too. And as an audience, we may have a clue that Captain America was around in World War II. He wasn't a figure that, was frozen in the ice 2 years ago. So suddenly all these pieces are kind of falling into place. So the mystery is kind of set up. Okay, I have a sense as to what's going on in this story now.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And so this takes us to a cut in place and time.
Yeah, and a great nice little music hit also with the score to kind of do that transition. And we are in Tønsberg, Norway, March 1942.
Tønsberg, Norway. Now, do you want to talk about the extended sequence?
Well, we'll talk about it here, but first, Tønsberg, Norway, Pete.
Oh, of course. I need our guide. What can I learn about Tønsberg, Norway, Andy?
You might have forgotten, but I sure talked about Tønsberg a lot last season. This is a village in Norway, and we saw this back in the Battle of Tønsberg at the beginning of our last film, at the beginning of Thor. This was when the frost giants of Jotunheim, King Laufey, invades Tønsberg and just freezes everything. This was 965 AD. He's just freezing villagers left and right. It's a fantastic open. He's using another blue cube. This is certainly one of those things that confused a lot of people. He's using the Casket of Ancient Winters in that particular film. And it makes me think that they were trying to create some blue cube connection between the two films. I'm not exactly sure why they felt we had to just keep doing blue cubes in this, but that was 965 AD, and now we're jumping forward to 1942, 2,907 years that have passed between the two.
I almost don't want to say this, but I will. I don't want to hurt your feelings. I had forgotten that battle was Tønsberg, Norway, in Thor.
I mean, you weren't on for the season, so I'm not surprised that it wasn't something that stuck. But it is definitely something that has been for whatever reason, they have decided Tønsberg, Norway is a place that you need to remember in the Marvel Cinematic Universe because they will return to Tønsberg. They'll have new Tønsberg by the time we get to the later films. And so it is a thing for sure.
Tønsberg. What is there comic history that you're aware of Tønsberg? Like in the books? Something that anchors it?
No, it's just something... and it's not New Tønsberg. Sorry, it becomes New Asgard, because that's
right.
where they settle later. But no, it was just a village. I mean, there is a real Tønsberg, Norway, but it wasn't something that was really brought in for any particular reason other than they wanted to kind of have this place, I guess. Gilgamesh talked about Tønsberg also in Eternals. So it's I don't know. I think that they just wanted a place that tied Earth to or Midgard, I guess in the case of Thor, to kind of the broader world, and we kind of have that connection. It tied the Norse mythology into Norway. There was kind of this connection that they made for that film, and I think because we learn in coming minutes next week more about the Tesseract as it relates to Odin and his treasure room. We don't have that quite yet, but so there is that connection, and that's really why they wanted it. They picked a place, and this is my rewrite or writing of what I think happened. They needed a place for the first film. They picked Tønsberg, Norway, and then as they were continuing, we need to have some connection still. Let's just use Tønsberg and let's make it the modern Tønsberg or the 1942 modern Norway, and it just kind of continued from there.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. It's where we are. Now, the reveal of Tønsberg.
Yes.
It is wartime. Clearly there is something going on.
Yeah, because as we fade up, we're hearing gunfire.
Right.
And we're seeing a figure, a silhouetted figure running toward a tall structure. That is Castle Rock Tower. It's never revealed in the film, but that is the name of it, which makes me think that somehow this all is actually in the Stephen King universe.
That's actually great. Derry is actually a stand-in for Tønsberg. You wouldn't know that.
Tønsberg and Derry.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would make sense. Perfect sense. If only they had cast Alex Skarsgård to play Thor, then we could have had more Skarsgård ties, because we also have the Skarsgård tie-in with It and Derry. I mean, I guess we have Stellan already, but still.
That's right. It is Tønsberg's most famous landmark, Castle Rock Tower. And I can't pronounce what it is part of. It's a very long word. Slottsfjellsmuseet?
I got pretty good about pronouncing all this stuff. And
do it. Drop that. Slottsfjellet, the Castle Hill.
Slottsfjellet,
the most popular outdoor recreation area in the center of Tønsberg. It looks like maybe in 1942 that was kind of a square that they would have done there, but it's a green space. It's at the edge of a cliffside, and it's quite lovely. But it is in Tønsberg. How are you telling me there are two Castle Rock Towers? One fake CG one that is sitting in the middle of a square, and another one also in Tønsberg?
It's interesting. What I'm saying is it's interesting that they chose to specifically call this out as Castle Rock Tower and use it in the film this way, because it's designed as basically like a church tower in the middle of town.
Yes.
That we're looking at here, whereas the real one is it's really the remnants of what had been kind of a castle fort, like this big fortress, and that's all that's left is this thing. But my understanding is that most of the rest of the place, it was probably the Middle Ages when it was around. I don't think there was really much of a town around it.
By 1942?
Even in 1942. I wouldn't think so. But again, this is a fictional Tønsberg anyway, so.
Doesn't it just seem strange, though, that they would make those choices, call it the same thing, in a fictional, the MCU Tønsberg?
Yeah, very much, very much.
Make better choices, is all I'm saying.
Come on, MCU.
Okay,
geez, I tell you.
So we meet the fake castle.
And we have Jan running to it, but let's talk about the deleted scene now. I think this is a good spot for that.
Yep.
So the deleted scene, it gives us a little more of what's happening. We have two figures running through the streets of Tønsberg. And we don't necessarily hear gunfire yet, but we do hear some rumbling going on behind them. Sounds like a tank is coming. The two of them hide behind a fountain, ready to shoot, and then a house starts falling apart. One of them yells to the other, "Go tell the keeper," and then Jan is the one who runs off. We'll talk about the actors here a little more. Then we cut to a house that is falling apart because an enormous tank drives through this thing. The other actor, the other character gets up and runs. He's gunned down by some machine gunners inside the tank, and then we cut to Jan running to Castle Rock Tower.
The house that falls down is a 3-story house, and the tank is crushing through the 3rd story. It's not taller than the house, but it is at least 2.5 stories tall.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
It is a big tank. It's a big tank. The Hydra Uber tank.
It is a tank that we will see later, and it will look equally ridiculous and large.
It's a ridiculous tank. We actually see it we hear it in this minute. We'll see it in the next minute. I guess we can talk about it a little more in that minute since it's not technically in this one, but yeah, we'll have a brief chat about it and how it takes down the front of Castle Rock Tower.
Well, and I think this is important because this sequence reveals the tank in full. Like, we see its full might in this sequence. And I think it was a great decision to remove this sequence because that would have been too early to reveal this. And even in the next minute that we're going to talk about, you don't see the whole tank.
No, it was very intentional that when they cut this deleted scene, that they said, you know what, it was too early to reveal the tank. We wanted to leave it a little more of a surprise. So when that front of the building comes down in minute 5, there's a little more mystery to what's happening there. So I get it, and I appreciate that. So,
but cool and big.
Yeah, it still is cool. Yeah, very big. But that takes us to Castle Rock Tower.
Big Castle Rock Tower, MCU Castle Rock Tower.
The MCU Castle Rock Tower. That's right.
And that takes us to the opening of the, getting rid of that deleted scene takes us to the cut where Jan is actually running to the tower, as you already introduced.
Right. So Jan runs to the tower. Jan is played by Marek Oravec, I think is how you say his name. Young guy though, but yeah, he's has not appeared in a lot of films, only 9 films, but certainly is somebody who looks like the sort who needs to be in period war films because he also is an SS officer in Fury, the tank movie.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah, that's one we like quite a bit.
Yeah, we like that one.
But this is Marek, and Marek runs inside and talks to the Tower Keeper, David Bradley. What? Okay. David Bradley is the first one where I want to do the IMDb game with you because David Bradley is a face that everybody knows. Whether you remember what he's been in or not, everybody has seen something that David Bradley is in.
100%.
What would you guess are the 4 films on David Bradley's IMDb page? For those of you not familiar with the IMDb game, IMDb says there are 4 films that a person is known for, and their algorithm is screwy Louie. It's impossible to tell why they pick the projects they do, but it's very interesting. So David Bradley, Pete, what 4 films? And I will say they are all films, not any of the TV projects or voice projects that he's done.
That's what I was wondering. It was going to be my first question because I know he's done a lot of stuff. A second establishing question.
Okay.
Are they all 4 Harry Potter?
They are not all 4 Harry Potter.
Okay.
But that's a good question because when you have big franchises like the MCU or Harry Potter or Star Wars, those tend to end up at the top. And there are certainly some Harry Potter on here. He, of course, plays Argus Filch, the fantastic groundskeeper of Hogwarts. I'll tell you there are 2. Any guesses as to which 2 Harry Potters are on here?
I would, just to make it easy on myself and not have to make decisions, I would say the first and the last.
Well, you'd be right.
Oh, really?
Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 2.
Oh, Part 2 even. That's good. That's outstanding. All right. So the others, we've talked about him in the Edgar Wright stuff, right? In the Cornetto trilogy.
Yep,
and so one of those has got to be on there, right? Hot Fuzz or World's End?
I bet you're looking.
No. Because
totally
I can't tell you what a fourth one is.
Well, you'd be right if you said Hot Fuzz and the World's End.
You know where... Wait, did you just tell me that those are the other two?
Those are the other two. That's why I'm like, you're cheating. You have to be cheating. You
No,
named
I'm not
all
cheating.
four of them.
It was actually, okay, for those of you who don't know, there is a chat room and you can chat along with us as we're recording this thing. And as it happens, Brian is in the chat room right now and he just wrote, "Are they Edgar Wright heavy?" And I immediately thought, oh, of course, they're going to be Edgar. So the cheat goes to Brian if there's anything cheat worthy about this. But I can't believe it. That means I just won the IMDb game with assistance.
That's right. You sure did. Those are the four. The first and last Harry Potter films and The World's End and Hot Fuzz are the other two. So very, very funny that you got those. But those are definitely...
That's outstanding.
All films that I would say he's pretty recognized for,
Yeah, right.
But certainly somebody who's been in a lot of things. Very, very busy actor. A lot of people probably know him for Game of Thrones. Is that what you're thinking for TV?
That was not where I was going to go. It was The Strain. He was in The Strain, the Guillermo del Toro adaptation, or
right.
Weird, long story. But I loved that. I loved it so much. And he played Satrakian in that.
Excellent. Okay. Well, that's David Bradley, who is he works here. Clearly the guy who keeps this place. He's not like I don't know. When you look at the tower here, it looks like a cathedral in the middle of town. Like that's what it seems like. But it's really not. It is like a military tower is what it is. And he is the Tower Keeper. It just is one of those places that seems like militaristic. And it seems churchy because when you get inside, you also have that tomb that we'll talk about in later minutes. But it feels very much like the sort of like, I don't know. It seems like a European cathedral is what I read it as,
Well, it doesn't hurt that its only lighting is, 1,000 candles.
Yeah, right. It's 1942, but they don't use the electricity here. It's all candlelight in this place. And there are a lot. You're right. There's a lot of candles lighting this place.
Right. So then we get the fear. We don't actually get a reveal of the tank that we've already talked about, but we do get a sense that things are afoot. Yeah, there's the rumbling that's happening.
Jan comes in and talks to the Tower Keeper who comes down the stairs, and they have a brief exchange there. I'm going to guess it's in Norwegian. They are actually saying they've come for it. And then the Tower Keeper says they have before. And then Jan says, not like this. And then we get half of his line here. Tower Keeper says, let them come. We'll hear what he says the rest of this in the next minute. But that's pretty much where we are. So he seems cocky and arrogant, like, this is nothing. But Jan has seen a little more of what's actually happening outside, and so seems pretty concerned. And that's the end of the minute.
It's good. We've got that. We're through the cap setup. We found the shield. Now we're ready to set up the next bit of magic, and then we can get on with the movie.
Now we're setting up the World War II part. Yeah, so it's good stuff. But it's a mysterious part because you don't jump back in a World War II film expecting to land in Norway.
No, right. Right.
That's kind of the odd thing that throws you a little bit. It's like, wouldn't we go to Germany or Austria or somewhere else? Right. But no, we're in Norway. We're in Norway here.
Sneaky.
An interesting one.
Sneaky.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for today. Remember, everybody, you can become a member of the show and you can support it. We have hiatus episodes that pop up between the seasons, sometimes during season. Who knows? We just have these hiatus episodes thrown out periodically. And then, of course, members also get episodes a week early before everybody else. Plus, members can jump into the live stream, as Pete was talking about. We have a live stream when we're doing the shows, and you can hop into the chat and all that sort of stuff. So it's a great place to participate. You can learn more at truestory.fm/Marvel Movie Minute. You can see what we offer. It's $5 a month, or you can get a discount if you join at the annual rate. All right. I think that's it for this week, Pete. Any last thoughts?
Let's do it.
All right, everybody. Until next time, true believers.
I could do this all day. Marvel Movie Minute is a production of True Story FM. Engineering by Andy Nelson. This season's music is Spread the News by Anthony Vega, and this season's show art is by Winston Yabo. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, consider doing that for this show.